My name's Gary Waite. I'm in the devices team of Telefonica O2 UK, and I've been with the company for the last 7 years. I was brought into the company to look at the SIM card technology that we were deploying into the market with a view to improving that so that we could launch new services. O2 UK is now part of the Telefonica group since 3 years ago, and so I advise the group on technical matters, not just relating to SIM, but also the mobile device and certain technologies like location, machine-to-machine and near-field communications. Yes, it has, and it was one of the first projects that I was involved with. So specifically for the UK market, at the time we had 5 SIM vendors, each with their own proprietary technologies, and we wanted to somehow make use of an open platform technology so that we could specifically make the launching of new products and services a lot easier. We were finding there was a lot of cost every time we wanted to launch a new service, and with an open platform technology like Java Card, we were able to reduce costs and generally reduce the burden of support. And so that was one of my first projects, and it took about a year to go from sort of inception to actually deployed SIM product using Java Card technology. It varies. I think initially there were 4 applications for the UK market. Telefonica within Europe, for example, Germany had a different suite of applications, and within Ireland at the time was a different suite again. And then when you look at Telefonica Madrid, again, independent applications from us. So it really depended on the market and also at the time. So some of the applications that we deployed initially, say 5 years ago, are no longer used today, but we have new applications which do different things. Well, we had a choice of open platforms at the time. Java Card was in the running. Microsoft also had a platform at the time. They had a vision to move into the smart card market because, of course, the SIM is a computing platform just like other platforms, and they wanted to take some ownership there. And there was a third one called Multos, which was used in the financial services. And so we looked at them all. And for us, when we did our analysis, Java Card was a clear winner for a number of reasons. And so that was the one we decided to take to market. The problem that we had was a logistical problem of having to manage a number of applications across several SIM card vendors' products. And so from initial development, we would have to develop for each of the SIM card platforms, and that was costly. And there was an issue of interoperability in terms of the requirements to functionality. And then there was support once deployed. This was quite difficult for us. Moving to Java Card, that changed very quickly because we only had to develop once, and then we could deploy the same application on a number of vendors' cards. Sometimes we would have to make minor tweaks depending on the complexity of the application and its sort of interaction with the operating system, but usually that was very, very minor and only a small incremental cost to us. From a customer perspective, it's all about the customer experience, and the customer should utilize any service and have a feeling that, that was worth doing, that they got value from that. The customer should always walk away after using a service feeling that they've got a benefit from doing so and that it's worthwhile using that service again. Therefore, I cannot underestimate the importance of that customer experience. And with Java Card technology, with the consistency and the interoperability that we got, no matter which vendor's platform, we achieved that without problem. We had a choice. Java as a technology is quite well known, and so there are thousands of developers across the world who are used to developing in Java. Java Card is slightly different in that you need to understand some of the mechanics inside the smart card world. There are constraints on memory, limited processing power, and general limited resources within the smart card environment. There are memory wear-out issues, and these are perhaps not known to your average PC programmer. So you do need a special kind of developer. But what we found was that within Telefonica, we didn't necessarily need to develop ourselves or hire a third party. We could actually ask our SIM vendors to do the development for us. And I would say by and large, that's what we did. And of course, we could pick for each project a particular SIM vendor to develop it. And then it was a simple porting exercise, or perhaps through the interoperability, no porting was required to run on other platforms. So in practice, what we did was we would develop the demonstrators or the proof of concepts internally ourselves with just technical resource internally. And then once we were satisfied with the look and feel of the product or the service on the SIM, we would then create a requirement specification which would include that demonstrator, and that would go out to the developer, which was typically the SIM vendor, and we would seek product from them.
How long did it take?
I think it was very easy. It was a lot simpler than using the proprietary systems because we only had to develop once. Java's quite a popular programming language and construct. It feels right in terms of the semantics of the language and the platform. And I would say typical projects were 3 months, no more than 3 months to develop from inception to deployment. Essentially, once you had a service that the company wanted to deploy, it was figuring out what aspects of the SIM were required as part of that service. And generally, we would find that the SIM would be responsible for some parts of the service and perhaps the device for others, and perhaps even the network for others still. So it was a case of scoping the work required on the SIM first of all. And then it was just simply developing a requirements specification, which was technology agnostic, and then it was mapping the Java card capability to those individual requirements in order to build an application or an applet for the SIM. In theory, it is quite possible to upgrade applications in the field, and using SIM OTA technology, you can replace or remove an application that's already deployed on a customer's SIM. But in practice, we very rarely use that, and instead what we do is we develop the application with a finite lifetime, which could be 5 to 10 years, for example. So we really put a lot of effort in the application specification to future-proof it as far as we can, so that we don't have to make any changes in the field. And that's common for most of the data that goes on the SIM card. So from Telefonica's point of view, we always designed so that we didn't have to change it. But if we did, the standards were already in place. There are standards which allow data to be sent to the SIM card, which could be an updated application or even the removal of an application if it comes to end of life. Yes, standards play a very important role. Telefonica is very active on a number of the standards communities. I myself are involved in the GSM Association Smart Card group, and we influence the standards as far as we can to make sure that we can effectively deploy useful and interesting and money-making services as the business grows. With Java Card, what really impressed us was that Sun Microsystems were heavily engaged in the standards community at the time we were trying to make our decisions on which technology to deploy in the SIM, and we were able to work with them directly and also collaborate with them in the standards community to make sure that the final specifications were agreeable amongst all the players in the industry and ratified by the standards body. Essentially, when it comes to managing content which is deployed within a SIM card, you need to make sure that you are using standard mechanisms as far as possible. There are some proprietary solutions in place, but it's the support of those solutions that become difficult. So with Java card technology, we made sure that the standards that were being used for remote management were, at the time it was GSM 0319 and 0348, were the two particular standards that we wanted to make sure were supported by Java card technology, and indeed they were. And with that and with some testing, we found that there weren't any issues at all, and we were successfully able to manage data and applications on cards in trials that we did within Telefonica without problem. I think one thing that's changed since my time at Telefonica is SIM card technology itself. It's become a lot more powerful. The SIM cards have got more memory, the processors are faster, and there's extra capability on the SIM, extra connectivity, for example. And Java card at the time was designed for a heavily constrained environment. So I think that I would want to see a Java card with a more enhanced API, a more powerful API. Of course, that's what we're getting with Java Card 3. And so it's great to see Sun Microsystems are following the market very carefully and making sure that their technologies don't become obsolete. So if I was doing it all again, I'd like to start with Java Card 3. Thank you very much. I think Java Card has been a success because it was designed correctly from the start. At the time, there was a desire, not just from Telefonica, but most of the European operators, for an open platform. And Java Card met the bill. It was built for the job to be an open platform. It met the requirements in terms of reduced costs, greater availability across suppliers, developing once, and it just worked. I cannot think of any particular problems that we've had in the field which relate to Java card technology itself. We've been very impressed, and I think other operators in Europe have been impressed as well. I think part of the success is down to the SIM vendors, the European SIM vendors, really getting together and collaborating, sharing test cases and making sure that the technology was fit for purpose once implemented in SIM cards. We've got a number of plans, a number of services that we're preparing for launch, and Java Card is very much part and parcel of the SIM aspects of those services. So without giving too many of our secrets away, there is no secret that Telefonica is very interested in the field of near-field communications, and we're working on a number of projects in that area. The great thing is that Java Card technology already has built in several features which allow us to include NFC applications on the SIM, so we very much are making use of that. The other area is with Smart SIM, which is at present it's a GSMA project for a much more powerful SIM card which has a number of capabilities built in. And these capabilities include things like USB-IC, that's the faster interface speed, and also Smart Card Web Server, that's something close to my heart. And we're looking to deploy services which use these technologies in the guise of Smart SIM, and Java Card 3 specifications firmly meet the need for the engine, if you like, the software engine inside the SIM to make those services work. I think in terms of advice, I mean, there's a success story already with the European operators in their use of Java Card, and I can speak specifically on behalf of Telefonica in terms of our use over the last 7 years with that technology. It just works for us, and when we deploy services using the technology, we have very little in the way of problems, and we can port to new platforms, new suppliers even, and we have changed suppliers and added suppliers over the years, and we've never had any problems with deploying services on the new suppliers' SIM card products. So I would advise any operator who perhaps is still using proprietary systems to look at the open platform SIM as a conceptual move, and then to look at Java Card as a particular implementation of that, and really to look at it seriously as a means of reducing costs and probably more importantly the pain of deploying new services on the SIM.